Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 32 of Conversing on Africa's Peace, a podcast focused on the AU PSCs and key related issues, produced by Amani Africa Media and Research Services. In this episode, we're breaking down the provisional program of work for July 2025 for the Peace and Security Council. I am Fikr Getacho, and I'm joined by my colleague, Privin Habu. Hello, Privin.
Hello, Fikr. Good to be here.
Great. So Uganda has been chairing the PSC in July. This month, there will also be the mid-year coordination meeting, among other joint engagements. On the program of work, the PSC is set to have 5 substantive sessions, 3 of which will be thematic, while the remaining 2 will focus on conflict-specific situations. These meetings will take place at all 3 levels, 3 at ambassadorial level, 1 at the ministerial level, and 1 may be held at the level of heads of states and governments. One of the sessions will be an open session, while the rest will be held in a closed format. But, as usual, before we delve into discussing the sessions, let's first take a moment to briefly reflect on the PSC's engagement during the previous month in June and highlight some of the key developments and notable adjustments made to the agenda over the month. Why don't you walk us through, Privin?
Thanks, Fikr. So looking back in June, the PSC initially planned 6 substantive sessions. However, the revised program of work saw this postponement of 2 sessions and introduced a new one. So the postponed sessions were briefing on the status of the implementation of the Common African Defense and Security Policy and other relevant AU instruments on defense and security in the continent. And also the other session was an update on the implementation of the PSC and EAC/SADC decisions on the situation in Eastern DRC. The newly added session was the presentation of the Peace Fund CRF, Crisis Reserve Facility, and programmatic activities for 2026. During the month, the PSC held its first session for the month on 4th of June, focusing on a briefing on the synergy between the Global Framework Ammunition Management and the Regional Arms and Ammunition Control Instruments. The session explored the alignment of the UN's 2023 Global Framework for through life convention ammunition management with regional instruments such as the Nairobi Process, ECOWAS Convention, and Kinshasa Convention. It emphasized strengthening national and regional stockpile management to combat the illicit proliferation and misuse of small arms and light weapons, which are major drivers of violence on the continent. Later on June 10th, the PSC held its second session to review the activities of the Multinational Joint Task Force, MNJTF, and the updated regional strategy for the stabilization, recovery, and resilience of Boko Haram affected areas in Lake Chad Basin. The session followed up on PSC's 1254th meeting, which was held in January 2025, which had renewed the MNJTF's mandate and called for stronger diplomatic efforts within Niger, as well as enhanced civil military cooperation to support displaced communities. It also received updates on the revised regional strategy and the community-based reconciliation and reintegration policy for 2025-2030, which was approved during the 5th meeting of the steering committee in September 2024. Following that, on 12th of June, the PSC held its third substantive session to review the deteriorating situation in South Sudan, marking its third discussion on the developing situation in the country since the 4th March attack on South Sudan's People's Defense Force base in Nasir. The session built on previous PSC decisions from the 1265th and 1270th meetings, which called for urgent intervention by the AU, including the deployment of a high-level AU delegation led by the Panel of the Wise and greater engagement by the C5. In response, the AU Commission chairperson deployed the Panel of the Wise and conducted a joint visit with IGAD to Juba in early May 2025, where they held high-level talks focusing on preserving the revitalized agreement and promoting inclusive dialogue, as well as ensuring timely implementation of the transitional roadmap. Issues revisited during the session alongside panel's report. Then on 19th of June, the PSC held a consultative meeting with the African Commission on Human and People's Rights in line with Article 19 of its protocol and previous decisions to institutionalize annual consultations. The session revisited the importance of mainstreaming human rights across the peace and security agenda and received updates on the Commission's investigation into human rights violation in El Fasher and other parts of Darfur, as requested during the PSC's 13th session of May 2024. The discussion also addressed ongoing concerns such as impunity, gender-based violence, and terrorism-related abuses in conflict zones, with the PSC encouraging greater implementation of the African Commission of Human and People's Rights instruments and enhanced early warning collaboration. The last PSC session of the month was to be held on 25th of June, which was the presentation of the Peace Fund CRF and programmatic activities for 2026 at ambassadorial level, although it was later changed to Committee of Experts level. And on 27th of June, the ambassadors met to consider the Committee of Experts level discussions that were held.
Thanks for that reflection. Thanks for that look back, Pravin. So looking ahead, as I mentioned earlier, we're expecting 5 substantive agenda items to be considered by the Council. The first session will be held on the 1st of July, which focusing on the humanitarian situation in Africa. It will be held as an open session, and this session will follow the PSC's last discussion on the topic, which was held in October 2024, with the ICRC's annual briefing to the PSC, where key actions were proposed, including a study on funding gaps and practical solutions to mitigate challenges related to funding. This session is expected to build on those efforts, addressing the declining financing for humanitarian aid, its impact on humanitarian agencies and displaced communities, and exploring sustainable financing, as well as the operationalization of the African Humanitarian Agency. Then on the 3rd of July, the PSC will hold its second ministerial level session to receive updates on Somalia and the AU Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia, AUSSOM. This follows the UNSC's failure. On 3rd May, the PSC will hold its second ministerial level session to receive updates on Somalia and the AUSSOM. This follows the May 12th failure of the UNSC, the UN Security Council, to yet again authorize Resolution 2719, which was seen as the best option for securing sustainable funding for AUSSOM. The session will also address the outcomes from the Kampala Summit of TCCs, the progress on operationalizing AUSSOM, including finalized bilateral MOUs with troop and police contributing countries, and strategies to tackle ongoing funding challenges. The PSC will also hold its third substantive session on the 4th of July to review the AU Commission's biannual report on elections in Africa for January to June 2025. This aligns with the PSC's 2014 decision during its 424th session to receive regular election briefing from the AU Commission. The last briefing during the 1255th session of the PSC was held on the 24th of January this year, which covered elections from July to December 2024. And the upcoming session will summarize elections held in the first half of 2025 and preview those planned for the second half of this year.
Yeah, moving ahead, on July 22nd, the PSC will meet to discuss rehabilitation and reintegration of children formerly affected, or rather associated with the armed conflicts. It is worth noting that this will be the first session of the PSC chair, Ambassador Rebecca Watengo, who was recently appointed as the co-chair of the Africa Platform on Children Affected by Armed Conflicts in May 2025, taking over from Ambassador Jainamba Jane, the former ambassador of Gambia to the AU. The topic of children affected by armed conflicts, a regular PSC agenda item since 2014, was last addressed in February 2025 during the 1262nd session, which focused on combating child soldier recruitment. And in this session, the PSC urged the African Platform of Children Affected by Armed Conflict and stakeholders to engage with the affected communities for effective rehabilitation. Therefore, this upcoming session will feature member states sharing experiences on post-conflict child rehabilitation, highlighting both challenges and potential opportunities of collaboration. It will also explore actionable steps to implement prior commitments and follow on decisions. including renewing the call for the AU Commission chairperson to appoint a special envoy for children affected by armed conflict in Africa. Then after this, the final session of the month is set for 24th of July, potentially at the heads of state and government level, which will focus on the situation in Libya, marking the first such high-level PSC decision on Libya since 2011. This reflects renewed attention following a session held earlier in the year, in May, which was triggered by militia clashes in Tripoli. The meeting will review recent developments, including the June reconvening of the Berlin process follow-up committee under the UN's proposed roadmap to end Libya's transitional period. Libya remains split between rival governments in Tripoli and Benghazi, with stalled political progress and delayed national elections, despite ongoing reconciliation efforts.
And beyond the substantive sessions, the 13 high-level dialogue on democracy, governance, and human rights and peace and security is scheduled to be held this month from the 29th to the 30th of July in Accra, Ghana. So that brings us to the end of yet another episode. From humanitarian crisis to the evolving situation in Libya, there is certainly much to unpack for the Council this month. We extend our best wishes to Uganda as it takes up the chairship for the PSC for July 2025, and we wish all participants in the Council's work productive deliberations on the critical issues outlined today. As always, we encourage our listeners to engage more deeply with the PSC's agenda and to explore the analytical insights we continue to produce to support informed dialogue and decision-making. Until next time. Before we conclude, we would like to extend our warmest wishes to the following countries celebrating their Independence Day in July. Burundi and Rwanda will be celebrating their Independence Day on the 1st of July, Algeria and Cape Verde on the 5th of July, Malawi and Comoros on the 6th of July, South Sudan on the 9th of July, Sao Tome and Principe on 12th July, and Liberia on the 26th of July. Let me also thank our listeners for joining us for this month's edition of Conversing on Africa's Peace podcast. We hope you have a great month, and we will be back again next month to consider the PSC's agenda for August 2025. Until then, stay informed and stay engaged.